Hello, friends, it's Phil, and welcome to episode 177. Now, that means that I am merely 23 episodes away from the 200 mark, and I have a little suggestion or an idea that I'm throwing out to you, my dear friend listeners. Whether you're listening to me on Spotify, Apple iTunes, podcast, YouTube, wherever you may be discovering me, I'd like you to make a suggestion as to who could be on episode 200. I don't know which direction I should go with that, but my son said I should get someone really interesting to do with sport, either golf, cricket, football, or rugby, because he said they'll really appreciate the grass. And actually, he said that rugby is his preference because he said we rugby players understand the value of the pitch more than other sports. Is that true? I don't know, but I'll leave that one with you. Come back to me with an idea for episode 200. Anyway, into this episode. Right. So a few days ago, I put a little post out on YouTube asking my dear friends, you guys and girls, what you'd like to know about most of all this time of year. And this podcast is coming out in spring, for reference, in the United Kingdom. And the one thing that sort of resonated with most people, and let's just say there were a number of suggestions, but not as many as I expected. But the resounding kind of request was lawn maintenance schedule. The lawn maintenance schedule. So let's talk about the lawn maintenance schedule for spring. We're going to talk about three things. We're not going to go any further than that. Now, the most important thing to do in spring, and this is actually not one of the three things, but this is just a suggestion. The way I have learnt to look at lawns, and the way I'd suggest you look at your lawn, is in two ways. The first is, or actually maybe three ways. The first is look at it from where you most enjoy looking at your garden from. And that might be the kitchen window, it might be the back room window, it might be the greenhouse, it might be the conservatory, it might be a bedroom window, somewhere. But go and have a look. And when you look out the window, look at the size of it, look at the shape of it, look at what surrounds it, and look at the inconsistencies of the colour green. And actually, I've talked a lot about the colour green in a previous podcast. So if you're interested in the colour green, then go and check out one of the other podcasts. But anyway, so the first thing is to take that view on your lawn, because that's kind of the vista, let's say, of your personal appreciation of the lawn. And I always like to grab a moment to ask the question, where do you look at your lawn from? Don't always get the chance to look at it from that place, but it just gives me an idea of how people enjoy their garden and their lawn. And I recommend you do it as well. The second place to look at it is look at it from where, let's say, the lawn specialist, if you were to hire one, would enter the garden. Side path, through a garage, wherever it may be, and just have a general look at what they may see. Because it just gives you another idea of what I would look at coming into a garden, looking at the lawn. I'd be looking at the lawn from my perspective. So the third place, or the third thing to now look at the lawn is, once you've had a look at its inconsistencies, go and have a closer look at the inconsistencies and When I talk about inconsistencies, that's inconsistencies of color. So take a view of a number of different patches of ground and look at them closely. Now, a really useful tool for looking closely or more closely at your lawn is your mobile phone camera. Now, the reason why I say that is when you look at it from from your eyes to the ground, there's lots and lots of other information around the area you're looking at, and it's very hard to focus on just that area. But if you take a photograph of a kind of a half-meter squared area and you walk around the lawn taking photographs of several areas, what you end up doing is you end up getting the picture that I would have of your lawn, of its inconsistencies, the inconsistencies of colour, the inconsistencies of growth rate, grass coverage, weed problems, moss, thatch, drainage, and so on and so on. So, looking at all of those little squares through your phone gives you an idea that you can then build a plan. That's the most important thing. You know what you're then working with. So, you've got your best view, your view from the professional help, and your view from your perspective looking down. So, this time of year, lawn maintenance schedule, what would you do once you've got all of that information in hand? Well, you could probably go down the route of doing a number of things, depending on what you think your lawn looks like. But look, every lawn is different, but there is a best practice to carry out in spring. And the best practice is this. First of all, you can scarify the lawn. And depending on its condition, some may say, do I have to scarify my lawn every year? Well, actually, yes, particularly this year. And if you've listened to some of the previous podcasts, you'll know why. So, scarify the lawn. That might be just a light scarification. It might be a light scarification / verticut. It might be something more extensive. But scarify the lawn. And with most lawns, to do things well, you need to do a triple pass on the lawn. One direction, change direction, another direction, then do a third direction or go in the same direction as the first direction. But a triple pass, sure, it will have an impact, let's say, and it will have a good impact if you're doing it this time of year. If, however, the lawn's in really good condition, you might want to do just a single pass, just to open it up a little bit, to get maybe a little bit of new seed in there, or just to kind of, if you verticut a lawn in a single direction, it's just good for the plants. I'll explain that for another day, but verticut. So, yeah, first thing, scarify the lawn. That's the first thing to do this time of year. The second thing to do this time of year, and as a general rule, let's say, but look closely at your lawn. This might not be needed, but generally is. On my lawn, it's not needed. But on most lawns, it is needed. Particularly if you're in North Leeds, the Yorkshire area, or Northwest London, which are the areas I know particularly well, because there's a lot of clay in those areas. And actually, moss is just the byproduct of clayey surfaces. So you want to do a moss killer this time of year. So assume that you've done the scarification, whether it's a single pass, dual pass, or triple pass, depending on the condition of your lawn. And if you've got any questions about the condition of your lawn, you can always message me, by the way. Easy to find me on my website, and there's a phone number there. You can text me or WhatsApp me, whatever. The next thing you do this time of year from a lawn maintenance point of view is you'd feed it. And this say we're just going into that window where the feed will do a really positive job of pushing into the season. Now, you might not want to use a slow release feed this time of year, like one of those polymer coated 12-week feed. What you might want to do is just get a faster feed into the plants. So go and get maybe a more conventional, let's say a quick release product, not a slow release product. And you'll find that within 4 to 6 weeks, which might be the duration of that feed, you get the pickup that you want in, and also the pickup and the repair from that process. You'll get it all going nice and quickly. Maybe a little bit later in the season, let's say maybe 4 weeks' time, you'd flip over to the slow release products because you want to run it for a little bit longer. But this time of year, you want to just maybe just get that 4 to 6 week feed and boost the plants. Boost the plants. Yes, my friends. So, in conclusion, thank you for those that commented on the social media platforms to give me the insight into what you'd like to know about. The lawn maintenance schedule, the best practice is, as I've said, look closely at your lawn from 3 different places first, then make a judgment on what commitment of scarification you're going to do. Single pass, double pass, or triple pass. Then welly out the moss killer and the feed. Now, someone would say that, do you need to do the moss killer before the scarification? Generally, I'd say if you're going to do a triple pass scarification, there is no moss left afterwards. Full stop. You just make sure all the moss is removed and then put down a moss killer afterwards just to neutralize any little fragments that might be there. The other way you could do it is basically you do the moss killer before the scarification, but I tend to find that unless you put a really heavy application of moss killer down, it doesn't really do the complete job. So I always say moss killer, scarification, moss killer, or heavy scarification, moss killer. But it all depends on what the condition of the moss is in the lawn. I'm sure that's a controversial discussion to be had with anyone about how do you use moss killer? I just tend to find that moss killers can sometimes arrest the success of the moss on the surface. But if you've got really, really mature moss, it needs lifting out and then a moss killer afterwards. That's my view. But happy to be taught that there is a better way of doing things. It's just that's what experience has taught me. And I'm also slightly sympathetic of actually trying not to do a triple pass scarification because it's just so brutal. It's just so brutal. I tend to like to do a gentle moss killer after a relatively modest scarification and then go in for the second scarification later in the season, I think. Anyway, every lawn is different. Every approach is different. There has to be some sympathetic thinking. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, look, if you're interested in more about what I'm building with All Gardening, and you're listening to these podcasts regularly, then why not pop over to my website, allgardening.co.uk, and you'll find out lots more about what is going on there and is slowly being built. This weekend, for reference, I'm actually edging into northwest Leeds, the Roundhay area, which is quite exciting. Quite exciting. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that another day. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care and have a good lawn maintenance schedule weekend ahead. Ta-da.